Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here today for another Monday This and That video where I talk about all kinds of different subjects, whether it be food preservation, medicinal herbs, what I'm growing this year, prepping, and many other topics. So this is just a conglomeration of a bunch of things where I'm just going to touch on topics. And one of the reasons I do this is just to keep people updated on what's going on, because my other videos can be out 2, 3, 4 weeks sometimes before you see them, but also to answer questions as they come in through the week. So with that said and out of the way, the first thing I want to cover right off the bat is that last week, and it was really ironic that it happened on the same day as the This and That video that published that day about me giving people another option for those of us who are now boycotting Carhartt for some decisions that they have recently made. Well, that same day, she seems like a super nice lady. She just started following us a few days prior for a couple weeks. And she happened to stumble across an old This and That video that went back almost 3 years. So early 2019, where in that video, apparently I was talking about Carhartt and how we like their clothes. It's Patrick's favorite brand for work jeans and t-shirts. But she saw that I was promoting that without paying attention to the date that video published. And if she had only watched the This and That video that published last week, she would have seen I am no longer promoting Carhartt for the very reasons she's not. But I'm mostly putting this out there that if you watch an old video by me or anyone else where maybe they're promoting a brand that you're currently boycotting for certain reasons, just make sure you're paying attention to the date before you pass judgment. And you should also, even if you were right in your assessment on what they stand for, that should not be a reason to unsubscribe and totally not interact with someone simply because their viewpoint may be different, especially if they have good information in other areas to offer. I mean, I still interact with some old friends of mine that have very different views on what's going on out there in the political realm. We might interject our own opinion every now and then very politely, but we still interact on the things that we agree on. I think it's really a shame that we allow these things to separate us even more, when that's what we should be standing against, is the separation this is creating. And because simply somebody misunderstood by not bothering to look at the date, now they're rejecting me because they're going back to something I said 3 years ago, which is now changed. Because of the choices that Carhartt has recently made, we have also chosen to boycott them and are looking into other things. Yes, we know about Dickies, we know about some other brands. Carhartt's just been Patrick's favorite for work jeans, so I'd like to find some work jeans that were made very much the same way where we can get away from them. And anyway, that's why I was presenting their shirts. They can actually get the t-shirts cheaper at All American, and they're all made in America, unlike Carhartt's are no longer made in America. Another reason to get away from them and find American made products. So just pay attention to the dates that videos are published. I think what happens is they show up as a recommendation along the side, and so people assume it's a new video when it can be 3, 4, 5, 10 years old. So pay attention to those dates, people. And just so you understand, I keep debating whether or not I even want to put this part in a video, but I do want people to understand where I stand. I just try to keep politics out of my YouTube channel as much as possible, but we are very strongly, very much 100% against any kind of mandate that forces someone to do something that they don't want to do, especially in regards to their health. Absolutely against it. And I'm going to share this more personal information right here. My oldest son, who back in August had only been working for Washington State, for about 3 months. So if you know how state jobs work, you're given a 6-month probationary period. Well, in August, he attended a protest against these very mandates, and he was let go the very next day, even though his boss knew he and some other fellows were going to this protest, when he showed up for work the next day, he was let go. Because him and another guy that attended the protest were both in a probationary time, they can let him go for whatever reason, but they weren't shy about saying why. And the other ones that attended eventually got forced out of their job because they would not get the injection. And neither would my son. And I'm proud of the stance that he took. He figured it was going to come down to that eventually, and he would have eventually been let go had he even been past the probationary period. But just because he was in the probationary period, he was fired for standing up for his rights and everyone else's rights by attending a peaceful protest, practicing his First Amendment right. So it is really a shame what's happened. And so I will say that part, and very much, and will very likely leave that in this video and hope it doesn't get me demonetized, but it needs to be said. And I'm sick and tired of people forcing what they deem morality upon any of us. I would never take away their freedom to get whatever medical procedure they feel is best for them. And I don't want them forcing it on me either. We've worked hard to be where we're at right now, and we never have to go to the doctor except when Patrick needs his yearly or once every other year CDL exam just to keep his license for driving bigger trucks. And that's the only reason we ever go to the doctor. So we're not the ones putting a strain on the medical industry right now. And why should we be taxed higher because of that? And why should we be punished because we're going to stand against any kind of forced health care upon us? Anyway, I'll move on. Let's talk about these other subjects. Brazil nuts, that was the other thing I'm going to put in my title. So it's been, I think, about 2 years since the last time I ordered a bulk bag of Brazil nuts because they are very expensive. Now I get these organic Brazil nuts on Amazon because I can get them through Subscribe and Save. I want to talk a little bit about this because normally I vacuum seal all my nuts into jars. As you can see here, I brought out just a sampling. These ones, these cashews, go back to April of 2020, so they're going to be 2 years old here in a couple months. And I actually forgot to put the dates on these ones, but these are all at least a year, probably close to 2 years old. Walnuts and pistachios that I vacuum sealed into old olive jars. These ones I do when I use these jars. I use the vacuum chamber that Patrick made since the Food Saver tops won't work on them. And here's some almonds that go back to 2019. All of these are still good. They are not rancid. And I don't even have to open them to check because I just know. The only time I've ever had nuts go rancid on me at all were some Brazil nuts, which is why when I did these ones up, these are from 2020, I did vacuum seal, but I still froze them because I did have one bad jar, but it was from a different brand of Brazil nuts, and it was that one jar. And I think it was simply because that's just the way Brazil nuts are. All you got to do is get 1 or 2 bad ones in there and it can taint the whole batch. So this year, this time around, these ones I pulled out of the freezer and I took the lid off and let them air out really good, and I'm just keeping these in the cupboard. But this time what I'm going to do is, because these are all, I can't imagine they're any less high fat than any of these. So I'm going to go ahead and vacuum seal them up the same way I've done these. The hazelnuts, some of these nuts are raw, some of them are roasted, and whatever else I'm not showing out here. Pecans, all kinds of nuts and seeds. I always vacuum seal. I just panicked with the Brazil nuts because they are expensive. But I feel pretty certain when properly stored, yes, in vacuum seal, that's not going to create botulism because it's high fat food. That is a myth. Just remember, Planters Peanuts for years sold their peanuts in vacuum sealed jars, and they even prided themselves back in the commercials of the 1980s about that sound it made from the vacuum sealing when you went to open it. I don't know where this whole myth came from, the botulism, vacuum sealing high fat foods, but I'm noticing that's starting to be tagged on everything anymore. So I've been doing vacuum sealing nuts into jars for many years without issue. The only issue I had was it was actually an open jar of Brazil nuts that I was working through, and I forgot about them, and some had started to go rancid. Now it could be because I did not re-vacuum seal them. That could be it. One thing I'll say about the vacuum sealing is it does keep them fresher. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing with these Brazil nuts. This is where I personally like to get my selenium rather than taking a supplement. Since I do keep selenium supplements on hand just in case, because it's really important for us to stay off the thyroid medication. But you can get all the selenium your body needs from 2 Brazil nuts per day, and I love Brazil nuts. So because of the price though, I limit myself to just 2, maybe 4 a day, and that's it. So these are my supplements right here. Organic, all natural. All right, now some other questions I want to talk about are the castor oil, because last week's This and That, I was talking about the turpentine and the castor oil, which tomorrow, I decided to go ahead and let that video publish tomorrow about the turpentine, where I go more in depth on using it. And I tell you, if you guys are paying attention and reading the comments under videos like that, you will find all kinds of testimonials of people that have used turpentine for many things for many years and have had great success with it. So anyway, the question came up several times on the type of castor oil I use. This Aura Acacia brand, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, is the one I use. I'll link to it down below. I think in the video that comes out tomorrow you'll see that. But it is organic. What I look for is organic castor oil that is hexane free. And it was Stacy from Off Grid with Doug and Stacy that had shared this in one of her videos a few years back, and that was the one I switched to, and I've been very happy with it. But here's the main question: is people see it says skincare oil, and it says for external use only. I use it internally. You can look for one that's for internal use as well, but really I use this internally. Castor oil has always been used internally. I think what you got to look at is whether or not it's organic. Sometimes companies put stuff like that on there just to protect themselves. It does not mean you cannot take it internally. You'll see the same thing on bentonite clay for external use only, yet I've taken it internally, so have many other people. And the same goes for turpentine. You'll see that no matter what brand you buy, because they have to put that on there, because a lot of people will just guzzle things, or oh, okay, well, I heard this is good, so I'm going to go ahead and take a whole cup of it instead of a little tiny teaspoon, and then they get very sick because of it. So you just got to do your own research on that and understand that companies have got to protect their own selves or they can get sued, so they got to put stuff like that on their labels. But yes, this is the brand I use externally and internally, more externally than internally, but I have taken little tiny doses of it at a time, just like little tiny doses of turpentine. I like to mix the two together in a 50-50 blend. Anyway, you'll see all that in tomorrow's video. Okay, so now let me talk about some seeds. Definitely the 2 new herbs I'm going to start growing this year are the Eye Bright, because I've been very happy with how taking that supplement has been helping my eyes. So I want to grow my own Eye Bright. And then I have these sweet woodruff seeds. I decided to go this route because one of my followers recently had come across this information on the sweet woodruff and how it can be used as a vanilla replacement. So you can use it in place of vanilla beans when making a vanilla extract, but it has to fully be dried first. But for a lot of people, this grows wild around them and it's easy to find and is free. I'll see if I can find that link that she sent me via email. Hopefully I didn't accidentally toss that email like I sometimes do. So I'll put it down below if you'd like to learn more about that and how it can be used to make as a replacement for vanilla beans in making a vanilla extract. So I think that's pretty exciting right there. And then the other one I have here that's also for eye health, which I think would grow well here, this is bilberry. So very similar to the blueberry, which would make me think the blueberry, which I do grow, but my blueberries are still in pots, and this last couple of years they started not being as healthy as they used to be, between being in the pot still and then being totally shaded by my grapevines later in the year. I do think the blueberries might still have the same effects as the bilberry. I mean, they are very similar, they look the same. But anyway, I'm thinking about going ahead and getting those started. And then another one just for fun that I don't know if I'll try this year. I don't think they'll do well, but I still want to try them because I've heard good things about them, are the pineapple guava. I think I could possibly be able to grow it in my greenhouse. Maybe. I've tried other more tropical plants in the greenhouse though, and they did okay through the summer and then died back in the winter and never came back. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Then the other thing I wanted to bring up was my homemade extracts. This is my own recipe to help sleep and to relax the muscles, as well as my own homemade pain remedy here. Now, everybody's going to find different remedies, different herbs that are going to work best for them for pain. But for me, these two different recipes here have worked best for me all the way around. And I think I finally came up with a pain remedy that doesn't taste quite so bad, but also still works great. And this recipe, I'm pretty sure I go through it in the video I did on pain and inflammation that I'll be linking to down below. Now that video's over a year old, and when I shot it, we had just got that Lost Ways book in, the first one, and I'd only glanced through it. And I just want to say right off the bat, if you watch that video, don't go buy the book. Instead, go watch the video I did on the Lost Ways after I had time to look at that book and another book that we got in, and why we ended up with two, and why I don't recommend it, not because there's not good information in it at all, but because the cost for that information is way too high when you can go spend $20, $25 on a book that has at least 5 times that amount of information. So anyway, I'll be sharing both these recipes below, but anyway, the deep sleep and muscle relaxer also works as a pain reliever because of the valerian leaf that I use in here. Well, this has valerian root, and the pain one has valerian leaf from my own garden. I did something to my upper back recently, and it's been hurting pretty bad, and not sure what I did, so I've been exercising it. Pat's been, doing some squeezes to help kind of move the joints around in there a little bit. I'm always doing something to different parts of my back. But one of the things that's really helped me to deal with, this is something I usually will only take once a day, but especially for when I need to sleep or when the pain is just too distracting and I can't focus on my work, then what I'll do is I'll take the deep sleep muscle relaxer, half a shot of that, which is about a tablespoon, mixed with about a tablespoon of the pain reliever, and then take those together, and it just works really good at relieving the pain, any kind of pain. If it's just a headache, I'll take just the pain remedy. But if I know it's something to do with the joints and the muscles, then I'll mix the two together. And that just works really, really good for me. But I'll also link to the recipe I did on the muscle relaxer that I have out there, and it's an extract. But please watch both videos because I'm always changing how I do things. And one of the things I do now is whenever I'm making a medicinal extract, I always use my own homemade wine. Yes, you can use store-bought wine, you can use vodka, you can use whatever alcohol or no alcohol at all if you choose. My preferred way of doing it is about 3 parts of homemade wine to 1 part raw honey. The raw honey gets a better flavor, it thins it out a little bit so it's not so much alcohol. It also works very good as an extract, as a solvent to pull the nutrients out of the herbs. But you can, if you want to go all alcohol free, you can do 3 parts honey and 1 part water. And then the last question I want to cover was one that came, I'm going to do a separate video just on this one too, but I got it a lot because of the video that came out last Wednesday about how and why I wear skirts. I meant to answer it in the video because I knew people would ask, but I must have forgot to say it. But I had question after question after question, people asking, are you selling your skirts? Are you still selling your skirts? When are you going to start selling your skirts? Here's the answer. That yes, I was selling skirts for several years. I was making them, pumping them out. A lot of times 2 or 3 skirts a week. Sometimes when I had enough time to do it, I could put out as many as 5 or 6 skirts in a week, and they would sell as soon as I'd get them up on the store. So I never could keep up on them. What happened in 2021 is just so many things. Starting to watch my grandbaby 3 days a week, my youngest son getting married, and now I have another grandbaby on the way due in May. So my schedule is just so much more busy than it was even in early 2021, and especially then during 2020, that I've had to put the skirt making and apron making on hold. That's one of the things I just had to set aside because I just don't have the time to do it. Just like how I had to stop making the soaps for the store for the same reason. Same reason why I have not written a book yet and very likely never will. It is a time issue for me. My plate is very full. And so I keep having to cut back on things in order to make time for the things that are more important, like my grandchildren and taking care of them, while also still trying to keep 5 videos coming out a week on YouTube and keeping up on the few other products I do still offer on our store. Plus the time poured into doing research and studying more things about health and what can help with different ailments, so I can keep putting that information out. Plus doing my bookkeeping right now, because it's that time of year and I hate it so much, and I hate that they keep finding more ways to steal our money, and keeping up on my garden and just regular day-to-day chores, and of course still having some time to just rest, relax, and sleep, for crying out loud. So yes, sorry people, but that is something I've just had to put on hold, and I cannot say when it's going to happen. But remember, I have a whole playlist on sewing that includes how to just make the basic 3 to 4 tier skirt with just a solid fabric, or to make the patchwork. And remember, the patchwork skirt one is a series, because the more I did it, the more I changed the way I did it to make it look better and to add more features. So that's why it's a whole series. It's like maybe 5 parts to it. So one's just about pockets, one is about adjusting the measurements to have it fit children or whatever size you need it to fit, and so on. So if you want to learn how to do it, even if you have only very basic sewing skills, if you know how to run a sewing machine, you should be able to do it yourself. If you have any other questions, go ahead and put them in comments down below, or any other tips or ideas you want to throw in. And don't forget to open up the description box down below to find any video links I'll be putting down there by clicking on either show more right down here, or if you're on a smart device, that little gray arrow on this side, that will open that description box to find all the information there. And if I forget to put something, remind me and I'll get it in there. And to be watching for that turpentine video publishing tomorrow. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care. And God bless.